there's a scene in the film Shrek when Shrek, sporting a knight's helmet, is asked by the beautiful Princess Fiona, whom he's just rescued from the tallest tower and the evil dragon, he's asked by her to remove his helmet. Now, she is expecting Prince Charming, and Shrek, well, he's a little reluctant to agree to her request. You see, Shrek knows his true nature. Shrek is an ogre, and he would prefer, if at all possible, to hide behind his mask. And the truth is, so do we. And so when I begin to talk about how the Bible speaks to our true nature, I realise most of us, myself included, would prefer not to listen. You know, if people look upon the shining armour I present to the world and think to themselves, therein lies a Prince Charming, who am I to discourage them? But if we want to help ourselves, we need to be honest with ourselves, don't we? And the Bible, which speaks of the God whose desire it is to rescue us, the real us, the Bible pulls no punches when it talks about our true nature. Now, the first thing the Bible tells us about our true nature is that we were made in the image of God. In the same way that a statue bears the likeness of the person that the artist is trying to portray, so we, in ourselves, in our nature, bear the likeness of God. What then does it mean to bear the image of God? Well, one of the things it means is that we were created to resemble the very character of God. You see, the Bible calls God good, and we were created to reflect God's goodness in our own character. It's not surprising then that in our very being, every human being has an innate knowledge of that original standard which the Bible calls good. C.S. Lewis put it like this. This comes from his book Mere Christianity. He said this: everyone has heard people quarrelling. Sometimes it sounds funny, sometimes it sounds merely unpleasant, but however it sounds, I believe we can learn something very important from listening to the kind of things they say. They say things like this: how'd you like it if anyone did the same to you? Or, that's my seat, I was there first. Leave him alone, he isn't doing you any harm. Why should you shove in first? Give me a bit of your orange, I gave you a bit of mine. Come on, you promised. People say things like that every day, he writes, educated people as well as uneducated, and children as well as grown-ups. Now, what interests me, he writes, about all these remarks is that the man who makes them is not merely saying that the other man's behaviour does not happen to please him. He is appealing to some kind of standard of behaviour which he expects the other man to know about. And the other man very seldom replies, "To hell with your standard." Sometimes we may be mistaken in our notion of what is good, and there are various reasons for that. But all of us knows, though, that there is a standard that we should be living up to. And all of us has a conscience which nags us when we don't. And that leads us nicely on to the second thing that the Bible has to say about our true nature. The Bible tells us we were created good, but the fact is we are not. We are fallen. So we were made to reflect God's glory, His goodness. But in actual fact we don't. We sin. And sin can be anything. It can be a thought, it can be a word, it can be a deed. But we shouldn't think of sin just in those terms, in terms of our acts or our actions. Sin, in actual fact, is bigger than that. The Bible speaks of sin as something which is alive, something which controls us. Philip Yancey, one of my favourite authors in his book Rumours of Another World, quotes Captain Ahab from the book Moby Dick, and these are Captain Ahab's words. "What is it?" he says. "What is it? What nameless, inscrutable, unearthly thing is it? What cozening, hidden lord and master, and cruel, remorseless emperor commands me that against all natural lovings and longings I so keep pushing and crowding and jamming myself on all the time? recklessly making me ready to do what in my own proper natural heart I durst not so much as dare. And Philip Yancey, speaking from his own experience further on down the page on page 142, says this: "Here lies the inscrutable power of evil. I can calmly identify my own sins and affirm how much better my life would be if I were rid of them. Yet knowing that I should choose the good, even willing that I should, does not make me choose good." Those are Yancey's words. What about the Bible? What does the Bible have to say about this? Well, the Apostle Paul, who penned the letter to the Romans, again captured his own experience here. And these are Paul's words. He says in Romans chapter 7, verses 18 to 20, For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For what I do is not the good I want to do. No, the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. Now, this sinful nature is something that the Bible tells us we have inherited from the very first human beings. It is alive, it is a controlling nature, it is self-destructive, and it is addictive. Now, whatever you think of Christianity and Christians like me, I want to ask you a question here. And please be honest with yourself. Please be honest with me. Does this not strike a chord within you? Would you not agree that time and again, even you fail to live up to the standards that you have set and that you expect from yourself? You see, I would be surprised if there was a single human being alive today who would claim, in all honesty and integrity, that they were perfect, that they never did anything wrong. It is as the Bible tells us. We are fallen human beings. You see, the Bible does speak to our true nature. The third thing that the Bible teaches about our true nature is that because we are fallen, because we are sinful, we are spiritually dead. We are therefore spiritually dead. We are separated from God. We are not in the relationship with God that we were created to be in. And as such, we do not know God. Now, of course, we've got to ask ourselves the question, does this work out in the world, or is this demonstrated in the world that we live in? When we look around us, do we see a world in which people's knowledge of God is perfect? And I have to say that as I look around at the world, I don't find this to be true. If our knowledge of God was perfect, why is it that there are so many different philosophies, religions, faiths, creeds, call them what you will in the world, all saying different things and sometimes conflicting things about the nature of God? If knowledge of God was perfect, would there be such confusion about who God is? Vaclav Havel, a former president of the Czech Republic, the communist Czech Republic, had this to say: "I believe that with the loss of God, man has lost a kind of absolute and universal system of coordinates to which he could always relate everything, chiefly himself. His world and his personality gradually begin to break up into separate, incoherent fragments corresponding to different relative coordinates." Now, I don't know about you, but as I look out there in the world today, that is exactly what I see. Very few people in agreement, or very few faith systems in agreement about what God is like. Oh, why is this? Well, the Bible tells us it is because, as I said, we are spiritually dead. So there you have it. Christianity is not irrelevant because the Bible speaks to our true nature. Is what I've said right? It's worth thinking about it, isn't it?